The cold steel of the knife sliced into my gut like a betrayal I never saw coming. And as the world blurred into a haze of blood and boardroom lights, I realized my own brother had just murdered me for a fortune that was never his to claim. But death isn't the end, it's a goddamn reset button, and when I gasped awake in my old apartment, the date on my phone screaming 2018, I knew the universe had handed me a second shot to bury that son of a bitch alive. My name is Isla Harrington, and this time, I'm not playing the loyal sister, I'm the storm that's gonna tear the Harrington empire apart from the inside. I bolted upright in bed, sheets tangled around my legs like restraints from a life I hadn't escaped yet. My heart hammered against my ribs, the phantom pain from the stab wound throbbing just below my navel. The clock on the nightstand blinked 3:17 a.m., and the calendar app on my cracked iPhone confirmed it, October 15th, 2018. 7 years back. Before the lies, the setups, the final, fatal meeting where my family, my blood, had conspired to erase me. I stumbled to the bathroom mirror, splashing water on my face, staring at the reflection of a 28-year-old me, unscarred, unbroken. The woman who'd trusted too much, loved too hard, and paid with her life. It started with Dad's death 6 months from now, or rather, 6 months from then. In this timeline, I was clawing my way through again. Richard Harrington, the steel magnate who'd built Harrington Steel from a rusty mill in Pittsburgh to a Wall Street behemoth, keeled over from a heart attack in his Hamptons estate. The will reading was set for a crisp April morning in the Manhattan offices of Blackwell & Sons, the firm that handled our family's legal affairs since Grandpa smuggled his first load of scrap iron across the Atlantic. I'd flown in from Chicago, where I'd been grinding as a junior analyst at a boutique consulting firm, dreaming of the day I'd step into Dad's shoes. Little did I know, the shoes were already poisoned. In my first life, I'd walked into that conference room full of optimism, hugging Aunt Lydia, cracking jokes with Cousin Theo, even forcing a smile for Uncle Victor, Dad's estranged brother who'd shown up uninvited. Marcus, my older brother by 5 years, clapped me on the back like we were still kids stealing cigars from Dad's humidor.
Isla,
you made it. Traffic from O'Hara, bitch, he'd said, his grin all teeth and no warmth. I didn't see the calculation in his eyes then, the way he scanned the room like a predator sizing up the herd. The lawyer, Elias Blackwell himself, a silver-haired fox with a voice like oiled gravel, cleared his throat and began. Dad's estate, the steel plants in 4 states, the penthouse overlooking Central Park, the vineyards in Napa, the offshore accounts that could fund a small country's GDP. Billions. And according to the will, it was to be split equally among his 3 children, Marcus, me, and our half-sister Elena, who'd been born from Dad's affair with a Colombian model and raised in Miami. But Elena was a ghost. She'd never claimed her share. Vanished after college. So, effectively, Marcus and I, or so we thought. Blackwell flipped a page, his bifocals glinting under the fluorescence. However, there is a codicil. The room went still. He detailed it. Dad had transferred controlling interest in Harrington Steel to a blind trust 2 years prior, with instructions to reveal the beneficiary only upon his death. And that beneficiary? Not Marcus.
not me.
It was Elena. Dad's guilt over abandoning her had driven him to make amends in the most nuclear way possible, handing her the keys to the kingdom. Chaos erupted. Marcus slammed his fist on the table. This is bullshit. Dad promised me the company. Aunt Lydia gasped, fanning herself with a monogrammed handkerchief. Uncle Victor leaned back, smirking like he'd known all along. Theo muttered something about that spick-horse kid. And me? I sat there stunned, my mind reeling.
Elena?
The sister I'd met once at a family reunion, all fire and sarcasm, who I'd defended against the family's whispers. She deserved it. Sure. But why hadn't Dad told us? In the frenzy, Marcus turned on me. You knew, didn't you? You and your bleeding heart bullshit. Always defending her. It escalated fast, accusations flying that I'd conspired with Dad to undermine him, that I'd leaked documents to Elena's lawyers. Lies. All of it. But Marcus had planted the seeds months earlier. Subtle digs at family dinners. Anonymous tips to the tabloids painting me as the disloyal daughter. By the time Blackwell called security, I was being frog-marched out. Disowned on the spot. My inheritance frozen pending an investigation into fraud. That night, alone in my hotel room, I got the call from Marcus. Come back to the office. We need to talk. Family sticks together. Right. Hope flickered, stupid. Desperate hope. I showed up at the after-hours penthouse office. The city lights a glittering lie below. He was there with Uncle Victor, glasses of scotch in hand.
Isla.
Baby sis, Marcus said, pulling me into a hug that smelled of bourbon and deceit. I was wrong. Let's fix this. Then the knife. Victor held me down while Marcus drove it in, whispering, for Dad's legacy. They staged it as a mugging gone wrong, me. The strung-out junkie who'd faked embezzlement docs to steal the fortune. Elena got nothing. They burned her claim in the cover-up. And the world bought it. Because who questions the Harringtons?
Now.
In this second chance, I wasn't going to wait for the knife.
I was going to forge it myself.
The first thing I did was call in sick to my job at McKinsey. Fuck the spreadsheets. I had bigger fish to gut. I needed proof. Leverage, something to shatter Marcus's facade before the will even hit the table. Dad was alive in this timeline. Hale and hearty at 62. Golfing at Pebble Beach and barking orders from his corner office. But I knew the cancer was lurking, undiagnosed, eating him from the inside. In my first life, he'd hidden it until the end, not wanting to burden us. This time, I'd use it. I drove to the family estate in Greenwich that weekend, the Volvo I'd bought with my first bonus humming along I-95 like it was eager for blood. The gates swung open at my code, still valid. Thank God, and I pulled up to the sprawling Tudor mansion. Ivy crawling the stone like veins. Mom had died when I was 10. Some designer drug cocktail at a gala. Dad never remarried. Just buried himself in work. Marcus lived here too. In the East Wing. Playing the dutiful son while plotting his coup.
Isla.
What a surprise. Dad enveloped me in a bear hug on the doorstep. His cologne sharp as ever. Thought you were buried in Chicago. Needed a break. Dad. Family time. I forced the smile, scanning the foyer for Marcus. He appeared at the top of the stairs, buttoned down crisp. That same predatory glint. Hey.
Cease.
Crash course in Connecticut winters. We settled in the study. Fire crackling. Dad pouring 3 fingers of Macallan. Small talk first, my promotion at work a lie. Marcus's latest acquisition, buying out a rival mill in Ohio. Then I pivoted.
Dad.
You ever think about the will? Succession planning. He chuckled, swirling his glass. Always the analyst.
Why?
You gunning for CEO already. Something like that. I leaned in, voice steady. I found some papers in your desk last visit. Blind trust stuff. Elena? His face drained of color. Scotch sloshing. What papers? Isla. That's private. I get it. But Marcus. Does he know? I watched Marcus's knuckles whiten on his glass.
Bingo.
Dad sighed.
Setting it down.
It's complicated. Elena's got a right, but the family's fragile. Victor's been sniffing around, saying I'm soft. And Marcus. He's got big plans. Plans that don't include me, I said softly, locking eyes with my brother. Or her. The silence stretched, taut as a wire. Marcus broke it with a laugh. Too loud. Come on.
Isla.
You're paranoid.
Dad.
Tell her. But Dad didn't. Instead, he stood, pacing to the window. The trust is ironclad. Beneficiaries sealed until.
Well.
You know. His hand trembled slightly, early sign of the chemo he'd never get in time. That night, after dinner, roast beef and the tense politeness of siblings who shared DNA but not trust, I slipped into Dad's office. The safe combination was still his wedding date, April 21st, '88. Inside, folders thick with legalese, stock certificates, and a yellowed envelope marked YH, Elena's birth certificate, affidavits from the affair, and the trust docs. Dad had funneled 51% of voting shares into it, enough to control the board. But there was more, a side letter.
Heron. To Isla.
In the event of my incapacity, execute the transfer to Elena. You're the only one I trust with the truth. My hands shook. He'd chosen me as executor, not Marcus. The golden child, the heir apparent.
Sidelined. Why?
Because Marcus had been cooking the books, siphoning funds to Victor's shell companies for years. Dad suspected, but couldn't prove it. That's why the blind trust, to protect the legacy from his own son's greed. I photographed everything with my phone, heart racing. This was dynamite. But I needed more. Proof of the embezzlement. And for that, I'd have to go deeper into the viper's nest. Monday morning, I was back in Manhattan, striding into Blackwell and Sons like I owned the place. Elias's secretary buzzed me right in, perks of the Harrington name. He looked up from his desk, surprise flickering.
Isla.
To what do I owe? Cut the shit, Elias. I know about the trust. And I know Marcus has been paying you to bury the discrepancies in the audits. His face went ashen. I don't know what you're. I slid the photos across the desk. Dad's letter. The transfers to Victor's Cayman accounts. You signed off on falsified reports. Obstruction of justice. Elias. 10 years. Minimum. He blustered, sweat beading on his brow. This is extortion. Call it family counseling. I leaned forward, voice low. You help me nail Marcus, or I walk these straight to the DA. Your choice. By noon, I had copies of the forged ledgers, time-stamped emails from Marcus instructing the cover-up. Elias, cornered rat that he was, spilled more. Uncle Victor had been the architect, promising Marcus a bigger cut if he delivered the company intact. They'd planned to contest the will, declare Elena incompetent, and install Marcus as CEO.
Me?
Collateral damage. She was too nosy, Elias muttered. Always asking questions. Armed with this, I felt the first real surge of power since waking up. But revenge isn't a solo act, it's a symphony of ruin. Next target, Theo. The weak link. Cousin Theo. The trust fund playboy who'd echoed the racist jabs at Elena. But deep down, he was a coward with a coke habit and a gambling debt that could sink a yacht. I met him at his usual haunt, the Polo Lounge in the Pierre Hotel, where the elite nurse martinis and egos. He was at the bar, tie loosened, scrolling Tinder. Isla, Harrington invasion. Buy you a drink. Cuz. I slid onto the stool, signaling the bartender. Double espresso martini for him, his poison. We bantered. Me playing the old role. Fun aunt. No grudges. Then, a casual as a weather report. Heard Marcus is expanding the Ohio plant. Big money. You in on that?
Tauscher Eis lit up.
Greedy.
Yeah.
But it's hush-hush. Victor's got the inside track. Inside track to what? Dad's not even cold yet. He leaned in, breath boozy. Word is, the old man's sick. Real sick. Marcus says it's time to prepare. I feigned shock. Prepare how? A shrug. Too loose-lipped from the booze. Cut out the dead weight. You know.
Elena.
And if you get in the way. He trailed off, realizing his slip. I pressed. Gentle.
Tell.
Your family. But if Marcus is screwing Dad, he's not defensive now. But I dangled the bait. I can help. Get you a piece. But I need details. The accounts. Victor's cut. By the end of the night, my phone buzzed with screenshots from his email, bank wires. Dummy corporations.
Tell.
Thinking he was playing both sides. Handed me the noose for Marcus's neck. Don't tell anyone, he slurred. We're golden.
Oh. Theo.
You have no idea. Weeks blurred into a calculated frenzy. I quit my job for real, telling the partners I was pursuing family opportunities. Instead, I holed up in a sublet in Brooklyn, poring over docs, building a dossier thicker than Dad's Bible. I reached out to Elena anonymously, a burner email from a VPN, warning her, feeding her just enough to get her lawyers involved without tipping my hand. She responded cautiously. Who is this? How do you know my father? Someone who wants justice, I typed back. Trust me. Sign with Ramirez and Lowe. They'll handle the rest. Meanwhile, Dad's cough worsened. I forced him to the doctor, Memorial Sloan Kettering. Best in the game. Stage 2 pancreatic. The diagnosis hit like a freight train. But this time, we fought. Chemo. Trials. The works. You're tougher than me. Kid, he rasped during a good day, gripping my hand. Always were. Marcus visited less. Excuses piling up. Victor hovered like a vulture, offering support that reeked of opportunism. I played my part, the devoted daughter, shuttling Dad to treatments, managing the board from his hospital bed via conference call. Whispers spread, Isla's stepping up. Marcus seethed. I could feel it in his clipped texts. Don't overstep. Sis. But I was. Quietly, I froze assets, alerted the SEC to irregularities, looped in a PI to tail Victor. The man was a ghost, ex-CIA. They said, with ties to every dirty deal from Watergate to Wall Street crashes. He'd groomed Marcus since college, promising the throne if he played dirty. And dirty he did. Affairs. Bribes. even a hushed-up assault charge from his Yale days. The tension built like thunderheads over the Hudson. Holiday season hit. Thanksgiving at the estate, a powder keg. Aunt Lydia prattled about pies. Theo avoided my eyes. Dad picked at his plate through the nausea. Marcus raised a toast. To family. May we always come out on top. I clinked my glass.
Smiling.
To secrets. May they all come to light. His gaze sharpened. Careful what you wish for.
Isla.
That night, as snow dusted the grounds, my phone pinged, Elena's lawyers, confirming the trust challenge. Game on. January 2019 brought the hammer down, but not before the cracks spiderwebbed through the facade. Dad's treatments dragged, his frame shrinking under the onslaught. But his mind stayed sharp, a steel trap snapping at loose ends. Isla, he croaked one afternoon in the sunroom, for drip beeping softly. There's something you need to know about Victor. I knelt by his chair. Notebook ready. Tell me.
He wasn't always like this.
After your mom. He blamed me. Said I drove her to it. Dad's eyes misted. Rare vulnerability cracking the titan. Truth is, Victor supplied the pills. Knew her habit. Fed it. I covered for him, family. You know? But he's poison. Always has been. The confession landed like a gut punch. Rewriting history. Mom's overdose wasn't suicide. It was assisted. A sibling rivalry turned lethal. Victor, jealous of Dad's success, had targeted the weak link. And Marcus, groomed in that shadow, inheriting the venom. Why not expose him? I asked, voice tight. Dad coughed. A wet rattle. Proof. No proof.
But the trust.
It's my insurance. Elena gets it. Victor loses everything. I nodded, filing it away.
Proof.
That's what I'd deliver for Mom. For Dad. For the girl they'd all discarded. The board meeting was set for mid-February. Dad too weak to attend, but dictating from his bed. Marcus chaired it. All bluster and PowerPoints. Unveiling his vision, aggressive expansion, leveraged buyouts that smelled of desperation. I sat at the far end, quiet observer. But when he floated selling the Napa vineyards to fund it, liquidate non-core assets, I spoke up. Non-core? That's sentimental value. Marcus. Dad built that with his own hands. He pivoted.
Charme offensive.
Sentiment's great. Isla. But business is business. We've got mouths to feed. Whose mouths? Yours. The room tittered nervously. Victor, in the corner, shot me a glare that could curdle milk. After, in the hallway, Marcus cornered me. What the hell was that? Undermining me in there? Truth hurts.
Bro.
Like how you've been bleeding the pension fund dry. His face twisted.
Ugly.
Watch yourself. Dad's not long for this world. And when he's gone, you'll what? Stab me in the back. The words hung. Double-edged. He paled, then laughed it off, clapping my shoulder too hard. Paranoid much? Get some sleep. But sleep evaded me. That night, the PI's report landed. Victor meeting with a fixer in a Hell's Kitchen dive. Discussing the sister problem. Photos showed Marcus in the shadows. Nodding. They were accelerating, poisoning Dad's meds, staging an accident for Elena. I forwarded it to Ramirez and lo. Elena's firm. Her response. We're filing the claim. But who are you? Really? Soon, I replied. Trust the play. The real storm hit in March. Dad's condition plummeting. Hospice talks loomed, but he rallied for one last push, a family summit at the estate. Clear the air, he insisted. Voice a whisper. Before it's too late, they came, Marcus, Victor, Lydia,
Tay.
even Elena, flown in under the radar. Her arrival a shock. She was stunning. All dark curls and fierce eyes. 25 and unbroken. Isla, she said, hugging me like we'd shared secrets.
In a way.
We had. Dad gathered us in the library. Bookshelves looming like judges. Hooked to oxygen. He read from a prepared statement, equal shares, but with the trust overriding for merit. Merit. The word detonated. Marcus exploded. Merit? I've run this company for years. You've run it into the ground, Dad countered. Frail but fierce. The audits. Victor interrupted. Oily smooth. Richard, you're delirious. The cancer's clouding judgment. That's when I stood, dossier in hand. Delirious? Or just done being lied to? I tossed the folder onto the coffee table. Emails. Wires. The works. Marcus, you've embezzled $47 million. Victor, you've been his puppeteer since Mom's death. You killed her.
Didn't you?
The pills. Gasps rippled. Lydia clutched her pearls. Theo shrank into the couch. Elena's eyes widened, then narrowed in solidarity. Victor sneered. Slander. You'll regret this.
Girl.
Marcus lunged for the folder. But I was faster. Phone out. Live streaming to the board via a hidden app. Too late.
SECS en route.
And Elena? She's the beneficiary. Always was. Dad nodded weakly. Isla's executor. She knew. The room fractured. Marcus roared. You bitch. You set me up. He charged. Fist raised. But Elena stepped in. Pepper spray from her purse hissing. He staggered back. Cursing. Eyes wild. Victor bolted for the door. But security, my call, waited outside. Cuffs ready. As the cops hauled them away, Dad beckoned me close. Proud of you.
Kid.
The estate.
It's yours now.
All of it. His hand went slack in mine. Monitors flatlining softly. He was gone. Grief hit like a wave. But vengeance tempered it. The funerals were a circus. Victor and Marcus arraigned. Headlines screaming, Harrington scandal, billionaire betrayal. Elena and I split the empire. Her steal, my strategy. But the twist? In Dad's final lucid hour. He'd confessed another secret. Mom's death was an accident. Victor had pushed her, literally, off the balcony during a fight. Covered as suicide. I'd missed it in my first life. Too buried in my own pain.
Now.
With the truth out. Closure. But as I stood at the graveside, rain slicking my black dress, a shadow detached from the trees.
Tay.
Eyes hollow.
Isla.
I didn't know about your mom. But Marcus, he said you were next. After the reading.
Chills.
The reading. In this timeline, Dad had passed before the official will. But the codicil stood. Or did it? Back in the city, Blackwell's office, Elias, long since lawyered up, yielded the final bomb. Dad had amended the trust weeks ago. Post-diagnosis. Not to Elena.
To me.
For her loyalty, the note read. The entire estate. Elena gets a fund. But control?
Islas.
I'd been played by fate, by Dad. The betrayal's inverted. I wasn't the victim this time. I was the heir. Elena took it gracefully over coffee in Soho. You deserve it, mystery woman. Whoever you are. I smiled, sipping latte. Just your sister. Finally. But as I walked Fifth Avenue that spring, it stayed in my pocket. A nagging whisper. Was the reset complete? Or was there another knife waiting? Summer 2019 burned hot. New York a steam bath of vindication and voids. The trials dominated cable news, Fox calling it the fall of the Harringtons, CNN dissecting the toxic legacy of American greed. Marcus and Victor lawyered up with the best. But the evidence was a landslide, my dossier. Theo's flipped testimony, plea deal for immunity. Even Aunt Lydia's tearful affidavit about Victor's rages. He scared me. Always, she'd sobbed on the stand. After Elaine. Mom's real name.
Elaine.
It humanized her. Turned the tragedy into tabloid gold. Elena and I testified together. A united front, sisters reclaiming what blood had torn. The judge. A no-nonsense Brooklynite. Through the book. Marcus. 25, to life for murder 1. They'd pin Mom's death on him too. Conspiracy. Victor. Life without parole for the overdose assist and fraud. Justice delayed is not denied, she intoned. Gavel cracking like thunder. Outside the courthouse. Paparazzi swarmed. But I held Elena's arm, flashing no smiles. You okay? She asked, voice steady. Better than dead, I muttered, the old wound twinging. She shot me a look curious, probing but let it slide. Some secrets stay buried. The estate settlement was smoother. Elena got her $200 million trust, plus a board seat, her steel expertise a fresh wind. I took the helm, CEO Isla Harrington, 29 and unscarred. The board, purged of cronies, applauded my first address. Harrington Steel isn't about kings or crowns. It's about building, forging ahead, not tearing down. Stock ticked up 12% that week. But power's a double-edged blade, and mine cut deep. Sleepless nights replayed the stab. Marcus's whisper, for Dad's legacy. I'd avenged it. But the cost? Dad's ghost in every decision. Mom's shadow in empty rooms. I dated a venture capitalist named Reese. All charm and zero depth, but it fizzled. You're holding back, he said. Damn right. Trust was a luxury I'd lost twice over. Fall brought the high-stakes play, the inheritance reading, delayed by the chaos but now mandatory for probate. Blackwell and Sons. Under new management, Elias disbarred, his son a puppet, hosted in the same room where I died. Irony thick as fog. Elena sat beside me. Poised Theo. Redeemed but skittish. Across the table. No Marcus. No Victor, just echoes. The new lawyer. A sharp Latina named Sophia. Unsealed the envelope. Gasps all around. Not the blind trust. Not splits. The entirety of the Harrington estate, properties, shares, liquid assets, devolves to Isla Marie Harrington, sole beneficiary and executor. Even I blinked. Elena squeezed my hand. Knew it, she whispered. Dad's side letter. Dated March 10th. Isla has proven her mettle. The rest was a test. She passes. A test. The whole goddamn saga. A gauntlet to weed out the weak. Marcus failed spectacularly. I'd survived death itself to claim the crown. Bittersweet didn't cover it. Laughter bubbled up. Hysterical, as Sophia droned on about taxes. Elena joined. Then Theo. The room dissolving into cathartic release. Post-reading. Elena and I escaped to the Hamptons, Dad's old haunt. Now mine. We walked the beach at sunset. Waves crashing like applause. So, spill, she said, kicking sand. That anonymous email. The warnings. You knew things no one should. I hesitated. Atlantic breeze whipping my hair. The truth clawed up. The death. The reset. The impossible loop. But how? Call it intuition, I said finally. Family's got a way of haunting you. She nodded. Wise beyond. Well, whatever it was,
Thank you.
for everything. We hugged. Salt-stung and real. Sisters, finally. Winter thawed into a new normal. I restructured the company, green steel, worker co-ops. Shit Marcus would have sneered at. Elena thrived as COO. Her Miami fire igniting innovations. Theo got clean, running a foundation in Mom's name, scholarships for single moms. Redemption's a hell of a drug. But the twist came unbidden. A year on, in a dingy Queens motel, the PI, wrapping loose ends, tailed a lead on Victor's old network. Found a burner phone log, calls from Marcus's cell, pre-arrest, to an unknown number.
Mine.
From 2018. Before the reset. I stared at the printout.
Chilled. How?
I'd been dead. Unless. The universe's joke wasn't rebirth. It was premonition, a coma dream?
No.
The dates aligned. My death call to Marcus. Begging that final meeting. In this life, I'd never made it. But the log said otherwise. Digging deeper, the PI uncovered Victor's final play, a deepfake audio, splicing my voice from old voicemails, planting the fraud setup. They'd framed me posthumously, but the reset had erased the evidence, until now. The real twist? Dad had known about the deepfake tech. Victor's pet project from his spook days. That's why the test. To see if I'd rise above the forgery. Claim truth over tech. I burned the log that night. Ashes scattering in the wind off my penthouse balcony. No more ghosts. Just forward. 2 years later. 2021. Elena and I stood at the mill in Pittsburgh, rebuilt, humming with solar-powered forges. Workers cheered as we cut the ribbon, her hand in mine. To new beginnings, she toasted, champagne fizzing. To surviving the end, I added. As the crowd roared, I felt it. Peace. Hard one. The betrayal's scar faded. Not gone, but bearable. I'd been kicked out once. Murdered for a throne I didn't know was mine. Now, I ruled it. Not with knives, but with steel, unbreakable, forged in fire. And if the universe offered a third chance,
Y de declina.
this one's enough.